What's up, everybody? In this episode, I'm here with Kent from FranNet, and we're going to be talking about the do's and don'ts of franchising.
If you own a gym or you need a gym, this is your guy.
My name's Mike, and I help fitness studios that are ready to take action, work hard, and grow their studios. In this very saturated industry, there's tons of competition, but the opportunities are incredible. We'll cover the most common challenges in the fitness world and invite guests in the show that have learned to overcome them and share their strategies with you. This is the GSD Show. What's up, Kent?
Hey, Mike, how are you doing?
Good, good. All right, so I have you on the show because this has been a requested topic that we talk about. We've had at least 10 or 15 people ask us, can we learn more about franchising? I feel like I don't understand the franchising part of it. Can we help with the marketing of franchise? There's so many different things. And so this episode, I brought you on because this is what you do, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But we're really talking to three different groups of people today. The person that's thinking about franchising, hasn't done it yet. The person that has just started franchising and maybe hasn't realized there's a lot of questions he or she should be asking himself. And also the person that's been franchising for a while. They may be super successful and want to know how to take it to the next level, or they've hit a plateau or they're struggling and they want to know how they can get themselves out of that rut. So that's going to be the people listening. But to set it right, tell me a little bit about what you do all day, every day here at FranNet.
Most of the work that FranNet does is helping prospective franchisees invest in the best franchise opportunity for whatever their personal set of circumstances are. And the way that we do that is by we're constantly researching franchise opportunities. There's over 4,000 different franchise systems offering franchises today in America. More than half are crap. Even franchise systems that are good aren't good for everybody. So we have our own research techniques that boils down that entire universe to about 150 opportunities that we work with that we know are excellent franchise systems that are doing things right. Okay. And then beyond that, we create business owner profiles. We use some proprietary assessment tools to help determine, of those 150 great franchise systems, which one is best for you personally based on your own personality and natural work style.
Okay, cool. So ultimately your goal is to help them be more successful with the franchise they decided to start developing, right?
Correct. Okay,
and you help them with a lot of different areas, which you just mentioned. You mentioned to me prior to actually going live, you just dropped this stat on me that 3/4 of franchises seem to fail. Is that right?
Right. There was a business school professor from Georgia Institute of Technology named Scott Shane. About 15 years ago studied the survival rate of the parent franchisors. And he found that over a 10-year period, only 1 in 4 new franchise systems would be successful. 1 in 4 will fail by their 2nd anniversary. Half will fail by their 4th anniversary. And those that do survive 4 years, half of those are going to fail by their 10th anniversary. Okay. So only 1 out of 4 new franchisors survive, and each year there's 150 to 350 brand new franchisors starting each year with that kind of outlook.
It's a lot of failure.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about why they fail. But let's also talk about some of the positives so we don't just get everybody totally upset about franchising before the whole episode really kicks off. Because you said that there was something about 90%, the people that do make it, right? Do really well.
So we'll put the qualifier, which I use all the time, which is when it's done right.
Right.
So when franchising is done right, of those parent franchisor systems that do survive, they've done it right. About 90% of their franchisees are going to be successful.
And successful meaning in what way? They're making money and they're living the lifestyle that they thought they were going to get?
Yeah, successful is a subjective measure based on what their expectations were getting into business. So about 90% of people will meet what their original expectations were getting in.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of successful opportunity within franchising, but there's just a lot of ways to do it wrong and a lot of opportunity to fail.
That's correct.
So let's dive into those now. Now that we know there's a good thing, let's talk about all the things that could prevent us from getting there. So what are some of the most common reasons that you see franchisors end up failing and not really making it to that 1 out of 4?
What I see in real life and what came out through the study also was that parent franchisors, and this would be new fitness franchises as well, their number one reason for failure will be inadequate capital. They started with too little money. And so that's the same reason that any small business is going to fail. The biggest reason is lack of sufficient capital, and that's the top reason that franchisors will fail. Most business owners that go into create a franchise system, they grossly underestimate the effort required to launch this brand new business.
Okay. And just set it clear to show the credibility of you and your expertise in this. You work with franchises that are just really developing, all the way up to ones that have thousands of locations, right?
Yes, we up to New York Stock Exchange traded franchisors. We work from brand new franchisors in very limited cases up to with thousands, tens of thousands of opened units.
Now you say very limited cases. I know you screen a lot out because a lot of them don't really make it past the evaluation, right?
Correct.
What are some reasons that a new franchisor won't make it to the point where you can even work with them?
So the first thing always starts is, do you have a business model that's successful? And we're going to define success by how much money are you making. If you're running a business, and we'll call that your core business, if you're not making money in your core business, there's not a lot of reason for you to try to franchise that core business. Right. Some of my clients want to be in a franchise system where you can make money. So the first thing, you need to have a core business which is making lots of money, and if that's true, then you can start looking at the other steps that are required to franchise your business.
And when you and I were talking earlier, you said that if I was going to start a franchise, the best way to do it is, make really good money in the first location, have really great systems in place so that things are organized and structured, and then before franchising at that point, start a second location and test that it wasn't a fluke. Test that this model is going to work again.
Right. Exactly. So if you have your core business, your pilot operation is making a lot of money, you should be guided by what is going to be best for you. And it might be to franchise your business, or it might be to own a chain of corporate locations. Just jumping into franchising isn't an idle decision that you should make.
Why would one be better than the other?
Franchising works best. The essence of franchising is when there's a local owner manager. And if the nature of your business requires a local owner manager, then the franchise model can be very powerful. Does Home Depot require a local owner manager that's invested their own money into Home Depot to
Probably
be successful? Not so much. So they're a chain of corporate locations. They have a huge volume of revenue that comes into a store, so that they can hire top-rate professional people to run the store.
An Orange Theory Fitness or Curves or something like that.
Right, where the owner has put in their own money and they are dramatically incentivized to make that operation successful. The franchisor is going to give up part of the equity to attract that caliber of person to help run the business. We do work with a franchise system with thousands of locations, and they have both corporate locations and franchise-run locations. And the franchise.
So you can do both.
You can do both.
Okay.
And many large systems will have both corporate-owned and franchise-owned. In this particular system, the franchise location produce about 33% higher revenue.
Okay.
It's the same system in the same areas. It's just a local manager who has put in their own funds.
He's got skin in the game.
Got skin in the game, and they'll drive a bigger, better business.
Now, obviously, I would imagine that because you have a local owner manager, like you're saying, there has to be a really good system, like a defined system that everyone's going to be able to run. Because without that, if you don't have somebody from corporate coming down and putting plays in place, you're going to expect somebody to learn this.
Exactly.
It needs to be more systemized in a franchise model.
A franchise system is just an accumulation of business systems, accounting systems, marketing systems, sales systems, operations systems, all of the human resources systems that should sync together like the gears in a Swiss watch to produce the sustainable results, the high income, the high unit economics. We talked about somebody who has their pilot operation, And they should be documenting their business systems, whether they intend to franchise or not. They should be writing them down. They should be documented on the internet if they have websites or whatever. Because if they have employees coming in, they should be able to train the new employees to those systems. Right. And those systems from your pilot operation become the core of the franchise business systems if you do choose to franchise your business.
Cool. So one of the biggest reason it sounds like people aren't making it through is they didn't start with a pilot location that they were able to really build a prototype around, right? And then decide, okay, let me set up a second location, see if this works, and go from there. Another reason could be that maybe they shouldn't have franchised in the first place. They should have done corporate, and that's something that's always good to wonder. Are there some other reasons that people fail?
Well, let's get to the second location, because you mentioned, hey, maybe the first one was a
fluke.
A fluke, and that does happen. I'll give a couple of examples. I worked with a company in the quasi-fitness business. They had a fabulously successful location, which is in the prime location of North Scottsdale, which is one of the most highest per capita income, highest household income demographics in the entire country. There might be 2 locations possible in Arizona that would meet those requirements.
Right.
So, of course, they were fabulously successful in their original location. Then they decided they would franchise, and they opened the second location in a different location. And that second location wasn't nearly as successful. I've worked with another company. They had 2 fabulously successful locations, and then their first franchise location failed miserably. Their successful corporate-owned locations were at the Mall of America and the Student Union at the University of Minnesota. Their first location in Phoenix was in a strip mall in Mesa. So vastly different locations. So not only do you have to validate that your core pilot store, that your business model is successful, but you're franchising that business model, and it should location is an extremely important part of opening your second location.
You know, it's funny. I have a buddy of mine. I'm not gonna say his name, but I have mentioned him in the show before. He has a really successful business, and he hasn't franchised, but very successful. First business did I think it went up to 1.5 million in a year, which is good for this type of business. And he opened up a second location, and the second location didn't even make it a full year. And he knew all the errors, but he didn't know it until later on. Location was the biggest one. He realized that, his type of business was very organic. Everything about it was natural and organic, and it was in the name of the company and everything. And he was coincidentally just within like a mile or 2 of a Whole Foods and an AJ's and something else. The second location he opened up, put a lot of money into it, really wanted it to be even better than the first. He was 12 miles plus from one of those, and the closest stores to him were like a Walmart and Food City. So it was just a very, very saturated with people still, but a totally different income level, a totally different lifestyle, and but that model worked well in this location, not so much in this location.
So when it's done right, you'll hear me say, I like franchisors that know their business. I like franchisors that know the metrics of their business. I like franchisors that know the demographics of their business, and why their customers are customers of that location. And then test out all of those metrics to validate them in a second and third and fourth site on their own nickel, so that they can validate their business model can be replicated, and they can train other people to follow that business model. And if they get to that point, then they're ready to franchise correctly. And if you're not going to plan to franchise correctly, why would you do it in the first place?
Right.
So if you're going to do it right.
So let's say I'm a guy that I have a gym or a fitness studio that's doing really, really well. I like the system. People seem to like it. I have people already interested in being a part of a second or third, fourth location. I watch this episode and I go, okay, cool. I know I need to start a second location and a third location possibly first to make sure that this isn't a fluke here. And I remember Kent mentioned that location's a big part of that. where can somebody go to determine the demographic and all those things about that location so they can look for a second and third location that match that same first version?
That's a great question. The first place is the commercial real estate brokers. They have access to demographic information, and when they're marketing a site, they will always put together a package. There are also specific site location companies in the country, and many of the top franchisors will subscribe to the demographic information that these companies provide.
Okay.
At its best, site selection is really very scientific. It's very data driven, and more it's driven by the numbers. I've helped clients open lots of locations, so I like to get my feet on the street as well,
right,
to walk a location as well that has first met the demographic requirements. For instance, if we're going to have a fitness business that caters to women, we would want to know what's the profile of our customer base, what percentage is women, what age are the women, what was the life event that happened in the women's lives that led them to joining my club.
Married, single.
Married, children,
kids,
divorced, single, 40
income
years
level,
old, whatever, income level is very important. And then when you're looking for additional locations, you want to pick a site that matches. You can look at the number of women in a certain household size with a certain household income within a 7-minute drive time from a location. Mm-hmm. And a well-run franchisor will know the metrics that are required to have a successful location, and they share those with their franchisees.
And let them choose.
Here's 3 or 4 locations that meet our requirements. Which of those does the franchisee prefer to open in?
Now, if I'm a potential franchisee, let's say I own my own company right now, and it's not doing as well as I like, and I think the best and easiest thing to do would be buy into a successful franchise already. Let's say that's the decision I want to make. Do all franchisors have that in place, or are there things I should look for when screening out a franchise to make sure I'm joining the best one?
It's good to spend some due diligence researching a franchisor to make sure that they are doing it correct. And you were talking about the perspective of a potential franchisee mm-hmm. joining a franchise system.
Right.
And 2 very important questions to ask. What do I get for my franchise fee? There should be a list of goods and services.
Like itemized out?
Exactly, that the franchisor is going to provide to you. Site selection, help with construction drawings, with hiring a contractor, managing a contractor, grand opening, a marketing plan, training programs, help you hire the right people. That should all be listed out. You should also ask, what do I get for my royalties? If you're going to be taking 6 or 7 or 8% off the top of revenue, a franchisee should expect some goods and services coming back for that royalty.
What are some things that typically would come with a royalty?
So typically franchisors will have very effective marketing programs. One thing for small business owners, they will have blinders on. They have to get to Friday and get enough money into the checking account so that they can cover payroll on Friday.
Right.
And anything that doesn't directly happen from Monday to Friday to put money in the bank frequently doesn't get very much attention. So franchisors can do the marketing programs for their franchisees. It'll be on the dollars of the franchisee, but the people back at headquarters can be making the phone calls, creating the digital files, sending them out to the right vendors, making sure that the programs are implemented in a timely fashion to drive in new clients.
Okay.
The second thing that franchisors, especially in the fitness industry, will do frequently is to provide new curriculum. Here's something, a new service or product that recaptures the interest of a customer so that they're their longevity at the center goes up.
Okay.
So those are two common items. Negotiating vendor discounts, negotiating insurance discounts, negotiating discounts on every goods and services that the franchise business
breaks
is
or
buying.
needs replacement.
Yes, exactly. When there's equipment involved, franchisors should be getting an enormous discount on the fitness equipment from the vendors through the volume discounts that a well-run franchise system will be bringing to that vendor.
Cool.
So when franchising's done right, the franchisee will pay an entrance fee, a franchise fee to get in. They'll pay a portion of the revenue to get in. But when it's done right, the franchisor will be able to lower every expense as expressed as a percent of revenue, so that even after paying the franchise fee, after paying the royalty, the franchisee puts more money in their own pocket.
By being able to get those discounted vendor costs
So
and all that.
I'm paying a royalty, I'm getting back a basket of goods and services that helps me put more money in my own pocket.
And be successful faster, not have to fail so many times in the beginning.
Correct. Hopefully with a well-run franchisor that has validated its business system in multiple locations. They're doing it right. We're not going to fail at all.
Right.
We're gonna ramp up and achieve our financial success much faster than we could if we attempted to do it on our own.
Now, one of the things you mentioned was marketing, and that's my business is marketing for fitness studios and gyms, and we've come across franchisees before where they want to work with us, but they can't work with us because the headquarters says that they work with one of their marketing companies instead. Right. They're allowed to do marketing themselves, but they may have their hands tied when it comes to hiring other marketing companies. Why would that happen, or how would that work? Because I know that's been an issue, and it can be frustrating, but at the same time I want to respect and understand the franchise.
So when it's done right, the franchisor will know its business.
Right.
And so remember, when it's done right.
Right.
Okay? So when a franchisor is doing it right, they should have marketing programs that have been tested and validated, and they should have some national approved vendors that are helping them run those programs. And for a company like yourselves, you should be part of those programs approved at the headquarters level. That's the best place to start. And when a franchisee works through those approved programs, typically there's economies of scale that are built in, and there's benchmarks to test them with. But any business owner, whether it's franchisee or not, can spend their own dollars in marketing, in a franchise system, so long as it meets the brand standards of the franchise system.
You're not making promises or statements that don't adhere to the current
exactly,
brand, right?
Or using the wrong logo or faded colors, or when you look at a Subway ad, it's a Subway ad before you read SUBWAY, because it has that certain look. Exactly, it meets the brand standards, and that's part of the documentation of a franchise system that's well run. I just looked at a brand standard for a company we're evaluating. It was about 60 pages of fonts and colors and different types of ads. It's all in there so as to present the same image wherever, whatever medium that they're in.
Right, got it. Okay, cool. So one of the things that we talked about earlier was, let's say we tested the first location, it went well. Tested a second, third, it went well, and I know why. I picked the right locations, I did my due diligence, and this all makes sense. I even have 2 locations running without me there, and everyone's happy. Now I believe I'm ready to open up my 4th location, 5th location. The next question is, what do I charge? How did I come up with that number? You say there's a number in the beginning, of course, and then there's like a percentage of royalties, and it has to do with what you get out of it. But how do you, as the franchisor, new franchisor, really start determining that?
Right. And so we're talking about how to package your franchise offering to sell to a target market. So you'll need to know who your target market is. That would be your potential franchisees, and then you want to package your offering so that it's attractive to them. And setting the franchise fee is not scientific method, but I'll just say there's two general philosophies, especially in the fitness business. One is to have a very low franchise fee so that a lot of people can get into your system. Mm-hmm. And the flip side is to have a higher franchise fee, which maybe will exclude some potential franchisees without access to capital. A low franchise fee is going to be attractive to somebody who can't pay a high franchise fee, and maybe they'll be a great franchisee, maybe not so much, because they're starting off undercapitalized already. So, let's just say subjectively, we see fitness franchises from the low end of around $25,000 franchise fee, which, remember, when it's done right, the franchisor is providing a basket of goods and services in exchange for that. So they can only provide a basket of goods and services worth $25,000. We see, up to about $39,000 for a single store. And for franchise systems who intend to have a business model which is a semi-absentee business model, which lends itself to multiple ownership then by the same franchisee, we'll see an initial franchise fee maybe of $45,000 for 3 licenses. Mm-hmm. With maybe a small increment as they open the second and third stores. Okay.
I've seen a spin studio, it costs like $500,000 to get the thing going.
Is that the franchise fee or the total investment?
Well, they have to have that available along, so it's not only includes a franchise fee, but they need to have that available because they know what it's going to take to build the place.
And so that's, when it's done right, a franchisor is going to know its metrics. If they've opened 4 or 5 or 6 or 106 or 1,000 locations, they should have a very good idea on what's the total investment required to open another location, including, and this is very important, including the cash in the bank the first day, the working capital, which is in the business checking account, which is going to be required for that location to ramp up to break even. Right. That working capital is the mistake that most independent business owners make. I've seen so many independent people invest every dime they have to get the door open, right, and they think the profits are going to come rushing in the first day, which doesn't happen very frequently. So that would be undercapitalization. When with the franchise business, part of the reason why franchisees of franchisors who are doing it right have a 90% success rate is because the franchisor will tell them what's the amount of working capital they should start with. And maybe it's $30,000, maybe it's $120,000, but whatever their business model is, they'll know what it is. So,
and it'll give them an idea as to how much they should expect to pay in salary, how much they should expect to pay in, marketing, in order to be able to get to that break-even point by this time.
In a franchise disclosure document, which is required by the Federal Trade Commission to be delivered to potential franchisees, it does cover in detail what's the required investment to open a location, and also what are some of the ongoing expenses.
Okay, cool. Paperwork to get a franchise started there's a ton of it, and there's a good amount of money to set up a franchise. You don't just set up a franchise. It's not as simple as just setting up a Facebook page. There's a lot goes into it, right?
Yes. If you're a potential franchisor and you're doing it on your own,
right,
I would already suggest that you're a failure.
Really? So sure. Why is that?
It's not an idle endeavor for people to pick up. It's a regulated industry. There's a lot of steps that go into it, and the actual paperwork is just the start.
I heard there's a lot.
There's a lot. That's why you hire a good attorney. You
right.
have a good
which has its costs.
CPA, yes. And franchise law is a specialty, so you should work with a franchise specialist. And you'll spend between $25,000 and $40,000 with an attorney to do the documents required to legally sell a franchise in America. And that's just a starting point. If you want to actively launch a business, you need more than a set of documents from an attorney. You need a marketing plan, you need a whole business plan, you're going to need salespeople, you're going to need trainers, you're going to need
a whole
your own
separate team.
advertising.
And that's one of the things we talked about as well. When you decide you want to start franchising, you've made that choice. What a lot of people will do is they'll use their internal team that runs the gym or the fitness studio to help sell franchises, right? They'll take the best salesperson, they'll take those calls too, and they'll field some calls. But what you were telling me is you should treat that like its own business, where you have its own salesperson or people and marketing guy and all that stuff, right?
So the reason that new franchisors fail, one is undercapitalized. Second is that the owners fail to realize that they're launching a whole brand new business. Mm-hmm. Not only does it require its own capital separate from the core business, but it requires its own management, its own marketing programs, and its own sales force. Sometimes you can take people out of your core business to do a dual role, but that really puts a lot of strain now on both businesses, both your core business and your franchise business. So if you want to do it right, you should get your own employees in the franchise business.
Now you mentioned there's some really cool available mentorship that you can get through SCORE and ASBDC. So this is something that you recommend people really get into if they're thinking about starting a franchise, or maybe they even just started a franchise and they want to make sure they do it right, like you say, right?
Exactly.
So tell me about SCORE and ASBDC.
So SCORE and the American Small Business Development Centers are both organizations which are part of the Small Business Administration, the SBA. They get most of their funding from the government through the SBA, and both SCORE and the SBDC centers provide free counseling and mentoring to any kind of small business owner.
So not even somebody that wants to do franchising. Even if I
Anybody
just own
at all.
a single location, I'm struggling and I want to mentor, I can talk to somebody.
You want to go in and open a podcast business, for instance?
Right.
SCORE will try to set you up with a mentor or a counselor who has some experience in that line of work and help you with your issues in that business. And the same with the Small Business Development Centers.
And it doesn't cost anything.
It's free. It's all supported by our tax dollars.
That's awesome. So why wouldn't a business owner use free mentorship? Like, is there a reason why? I mean, I think
Arrogance?
mainly they don't know as well.
I
don't think a lot of people. I bet you a lot of people don't know that there's free mentorship available by this.
Yeah. So there's a SCORE chapter in every major metropolitan area in the country. You can go to score.org, SCORE.org, and it'll take you to their website where you can register for free counseling right on the local chapter website.
Wow.
And the same thing with ASBDC.org. We'll take you to the SBDC website and you can register for free counseling.
And these are independent of each other?
They are cousins.
So can you work with one of each, or
you can work with them both?
Really?
The difference is SCORE counselors are all volunteers. Some of them are very experienced executives who've run billion-dollar businesses, and they're giving back to the business community through their own volunteer mentoring. The small business development centers are salaried people that work full-time in a physical center. Here in Arizona and many states, centers are located at community colleges around the country.
I'm a huge advocate of mentorship and coaching. I always have a coach, and I collect mentors. I think it's great to keep them by my side. I learned so much. Whenever I go through a tough time, I always go to a mentor, and I know which one to go to based on the challenge I'm having. What are your thoughts on mentorship? I mean, is this something that if you were a small business, you would immediately go to?
If you're in a small business and you come up against an issue that you're not an expert in, you should get expert advice. And if that expert advice is free, then all the better.
Yeah, awesome. You provided a lot of really good value here. This is awesome, and there's actually a really good chance we may do a part 2 of this, because as I'm learning more and more about you, I feel like this can get really deep. And so would you be open to doing a part 2 down the road if it makes sense?
Only if you want to do it right.
Only if we want to do it right. Yeah, only,
Okay.
only. And we'll always do this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, thanks so much, Kent.
It's nice for you to visit.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us today. If you like this episode, then subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Stitcher, and to our YouTube channel to never miss an episode. You can get all the links by going to thegsdshow.com. Thanks, and see you next time.